welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis. With me, as always, is Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Hollis.
We are jumping in today to the 1988 action buddy comedy Midnight Run. Dave, we're going back to the 80s.
The 80s. Second only to the 70s.
Yeah, it's true. Well,
Yeah.
60s would have something to say about that.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
So we're taking you back. We could not be further from the generation we've been covering lately.
Yeah. We might as well be doing Freebie and the Bean.
Yeah. Which was Stanley Kubrick's favorite movie.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is far away from currently made high school movies.
It really is.
This is middle-aged men. Like, this is literally like a movie that I'm like, Dad, go see this movie, Dad. You're going to love it, Dad.
Yeah. This was a type of movie that they made ad nauseum in the 80s. First of all, this is a good movie. This is a good version of it. But there were so many movies that had to have like four things. You needed middle-aged white men. You needed guns. You needed a lot of car wrecks and car chases. You needed a really over-the-top soundtrack.
I'm going to take that even further. But first, I'm going to jump backwards and tell you that my fit today is Schlitz.
Schlitz beer.
The beer that made Milwaukee famous.
I
put it on because I thought it struck me as something Jack would drink. Jack's a Schlitz man, you know.
Yeah.
Back on the force.
So would Marvin. Marvin seemed like a Schlitz
Marvin
man.
Dorff was a Schlitz man for sure. But our Charles Grodin character, Jonathan Mardukas, would never drink Schlitz. Oh, Jack, why do you do that to yourself? There's so many good beers. But I'm going to say that not only did this movie give all the stuff that those movies were supposed to give back then, had to have a chase, it was like somebody ran down this list and the guy making it was like, I'm going to give you all that. Oh, we're going to need a helicopter. You got it. Helicopter has to blow up. You got it.
Yeah.
Like train chase.
It's
train
so true.
chase. Like jumping off a train, jumping on a train. Everything.
It does everything.
Highway chase. Desert chase.
Well,
just everything.
It is a road picture. It follows a blueprint that was laid down in a lot of good films before it. I love Silver Streak. That is one of my favorites. That's a buddy comedy. Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor. There's Your Train going cross country. It's got elements of the road pictures with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. It's a buddy comedy. It's an enemy comedy. They're not buddies, but they're chained together pretty much.
It's a gonna be buddies comedy.
Yeah, it really is.
It even has that, like, how many cop cars can you ruin?
Yeah, the John Landis kind of thing. Yeah.
Just cop car after cop, or one rolls over backwards, one crashes into a tree, another one lands on top of another one goes in the water.
This movie was directed by Martin Brest. He did Beverly Hills Cop, so he knows how to shoot an action comedy.
You can feel the Beverly Hills Cop in it.
You really can. You can feel this.
Yeah, really can.
Yeah. But he also directed Going in Style, which is one of my favorite offbeat comedies of the 70s.
Know that one.
Three old men, Lee Strasberg, George Burns, and Art Carney, decide to rob a bank.
Wow. That is so early 80s. When did it come out?
Oh, it's the 70s.
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
And it's got such a lovely, somber tone to it for a comedy. And it's the type of, like, you know, mid-list comedy that they don't make anymore. Anyway, Midnight Run. It was written by George Gallo. He wrote the story for Bad Boys that had Will Smith and Martin Lawrence teaming up.
Oh, that Bad Boys. That's not my Bad Boys. My Bad Boys is the other one.
Ours is Sean Penn Bad Boys and Esai Morales. But he also wrote Wise Guys, which was a fun comedy I loved as a kid. Danny DeVito and Joe Piscopo. Do you remember that?
I do remember it, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Acrobato.
Acrobato, yeah.
So if you know, you know. And within the first 10 minutes of this film, we learn what the title means. When the bail bondsman, Eddie Moscone, great name, played by Joe Pantoliano, or what?
Joey Pants. They call him Joey Pants. Joey Pants, you know him from The Matrix. He's the one who sold out humanity for digital steak.
Oh, wow. He's great as this kind of character. I knew him from Bound, the picture Bound with Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly, but also The Sopranos. He was like unhinged in that. He was so scary in that.
Great weasel.
He's a great weasel. But anyway, he says to De Niro's character at one point, it's an easy gig. It's a midnight run, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
So a midnight run is an easy kind of bring him back quick bail bondsman outing. We're not going to get into the plot beyond saying it's very high concept. Jack Walsh, played by Robert De Niro, is a bail bondsman. He's got to bring in Charles Grodin's character, Jonathan the Duke Mardukas. He is a witness on the run from Jimmy Serrano. A great actor plays him, Dennis Farina, who was in Crime Story when I was a kid, this great series by Michael Mann. And he's in Get Shorty. He's a almost the same character, a fantastic mobster.
Jimmy Serrano. Farina's great. And yeah, this may be is this the movie that locked him into that character? Because he really got locked into the character.
Get Shorty is after this.
Yeah, but Serrano's got the discs.
Serrano's got the discs was a line that my friend and I used to like throw at each other.
We used to as well. Yeah, Serrano's got the discs. Great. It was big with us.
Apropos of nothing, like anything that.
Yes, for us it was any possession. It's like, hey, Jimmy said he was going to get some party favors for the show. Oh yeah, Serrano's got the discs.
Or if we needed a code for anything, we would just say that.
Just say Serrano's got. If anyone's coming, just yell Serrano's got the discs.
Yeah, it's a MacGuffin in the picture. It factors, but it doesn't mean much. I mentioned the soundtrack.
I have a lot to say about the soundtrack.
Hang on, let me get this out.
Yes, get it
I
out.
could have swore, if you put a gun to my head when we were doing this, I could have swore that the soundtrack was by Trevor Rabin or somebody. I was shocked to look and rediscover that it's by Danny Elfman. And it is not Elfman-esque. Nope. It is not kind of the weird and offbeat music that from all of his Tim Burton films. But this one, it like alternates between bluesy kind of or every time there was something action going on, the horns would come in.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Elfman?
It was the thing that struck me the most. This is probably the fourth. I actually consider this one of the movies that I list as a perfect movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I consider this movie to have no faults. And I don't have a lot of movies like that. But you ever look at like a Picasso and stuff, and you're like, was this guy any good? Or are people just reading into it? And then someone shows you like realistic paintings, and you go, oh my God, he is good. Now, this isn't exactly that because Danny Elfman
I'm loving this analogy.
Yeah. So
how great is Midnight Run? Well, you've heard of Picasso.
Right. But now maybe you think Danny Elfman can only do this spooky, weird stuff, and you're like, he's great at it, but he's somewhat of a one. This proves that he is a master. He is a master because this could not be less Danny Elfman. I want to hate this soundtrack. This soundtrack is what white people hear when they hear Neutron Dance. This is like, give me like an all-white Neutron Dance. Moves the story along perfectly. It takes scenes where there are automatic weapons being shot at human beings and makes them okay because the music says, relax, everything's going to be fine. This is fun. This is automatic weapons fire for fun.
It also does what we love. It reinforces and helps define a character. Do you know there's a Dorfler's theme?
There's a link.
I mean, it comes in, it informs the character like a lot of the best dialogue does.
I suggest to anyone listening to go on YouTube and look up Midnight Run, Danny Elfman soundtrack score suite, SUITE suite. 11 minutes long, and it takes you through all the various little pieces that Elfman made to cover everything that happens in the film. There's no ego in it. It's exactly what it should be.
He serves the story.
Yeah, it's so good, and I'm a huge fan of no songs.
Yeah.
Like, I love
I
no
like a
songs.
score.
The only song in this movie is come fly with me,"
Right. And he
and De
sings it.
Niro sings it, yeah. It's funny because do I wanna listen to this soundtrack ever? No, and yet I think it's one of the best soundtracks I ever heard. It's weird. It's a weird combination of it's mundane in a way, but it's perfect, and this proves how good he is.
He's not a one-trick pony. He
No,
isn't.
not at all.
There's one other cast member I wanna call out because he's one of my favorite actors in everything he's in. Yaphet Kotto as Special Agent Alonzo Mosely.
Mm.
And at some point, Jack Walsh, De Niro's character, steals Mosley's identification. It is a running gag through the whole movie. Every time he shows up, just a step behind De Niro's character, the person is like, his real name's Mosely.
I'm Mosely.
Yeah. It is so good. There's one turnaround De Niro does right after he steals the badge that I've always loved. He turns around really quickly and he poses almost like he's on a VHS box cover for an action film.
Yeah, for an FBI movie
And
or something.
he goes full De Niro. It's almost like Travis Bickle in the mirror. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a great pose that he does. Yeah. Mosely makes me think of the fact that this thing we're doing, this pop culture graveyard thing, as much as I love doing this, and it has changed the way I watch movies, and not entirely for the better.
I'd like to announce this is our last episode of Pop Culture Graveyard. My apologies, Dave.
I was operating on a very much like on a bit of a ignorance is bliss type of wavelength because I was able to watch entire movies without ever being taken out. And I know for a fact I could have watched Alien and Midnight Run and Alien and Midnight Run 20 more times in my life and never connected that that's Yaphet Kotto. But because of you, now I'm like, oh, hey, Yaphet Kotto. I know that guy.
Well, you know what? I think there are drawbacks to analyzing films. I think that sometimes you can be taken out. But when a film is good, it's even better. And you notice more. And you learn to expect more from films. And I think that's a good thing. Because you can, as you know, you say in book reading circles, you DNF the movie, you do not finish. And you kind of are like, yeah, I'm not feeling this, you know? And you can just watch better movies over and over. You know, that's what I do. But I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of movies from scratch. I think the last movie I saw from scratch was The Outliers. I'm going to say this different every time I say
The Holdovers?
The Outlanders.
Yeah.
The Holdovers. Yeah. But then again, The Holdovers, not a lot of people popping their heads in who I knew, but fantastic movie. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that you've ruined movie watching for me, and you know,
thank you.
And thanks.
You're welcome. I put it to you. We've mentioned a lot of people in this film. There's no fat on this bone. There's like 7 people in the whole film, actually, with speaking parts. But
there's some great little secret people.
There's some secret people. There are one-liners. There are people with walk-ons, and they're all phenomenal. But I mean, nobody is just taking up space. Everybody serves a purpose. And John Ashton, who was also in Beverly Hills Cop, that Martin Brest directed. Taggart.
Yeah. I love him in
Marvin
Beverly Hills
Dorfler.
Cop. Yeah.
So
and
good.
He's fantastic in this.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. When he pats himself on the back for thinking to buy a newspaper and a Polaroid camera.
Which is his undoing.
Yeah. But he is so excited about how smart he is. That is a fantastic scene.
Yeah. And what's funny is he's smart through the whole picture. They don't make him a dumb goon who's all muscle. He calls in, he gets De Niro's credit card, last location.
I better cancel that, right?
Cancels it. He has De Niro's either his social security or credit card number in his book in case he needed it.
There's a $500,000 on the line. It's De Niro first. It's Jack Walsh first, and Marvin Dorfler second. These are the 2 top guys.
Yeah,
like Dorfler's good at what he does. It's funny because it would be simple to make him a bumbling guy, but how would a bumbling guy be a threat?
Right.
He's not bumbling, so he's an actual threat. He's terrific, man.
And
he is so good.
His character moves around with an arsenal in his duffel bag. He's got shotguns, he's got pistols, he's got numerous weapons.
And no consideration about taking them out in the airport or anywhere, on a train.
And he's signing over for them. He's taking his rifle, which is like wrapped.
Yeah.
And he's talking shit to cops the whole time.
That bag that he carries with him is all guns and like a little bag of sunflower seeds. That's it.
Yeah. So he's great. But when I think about it, Charles Grodin has the toughest role in the whole picture. He is funny without telling jokes, without any punchlines. His characterization is just spot on. He is the perfect wall for De Niro to play handball up against. You know, he's stone-faced through the whole thing, and his timing is impeccable. Have you ever heard of arterial sclerosis?
Everything about
everything.
This is why I fell in love with this movie. It's because of Charles Grodin. What, for this guy? Me, can you believe it? Like, I'm a white-collar criminal. Just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Every one of them. Down to what I'm almost positive is they said, Charles, we want you to riff and we want you to get De Niro to break.
Yeah.
And that's when he says, Jack, you ever had sex with an animal?
Yeah.
Which just comes out of nowhere.
There's some good-looking chickens back there, Jack.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a couple I might have taken a shot at. That's great.
No,
That's really, really beautiful. Yeah. And Grodin is so good that he allows De Niro to be so good that the two of them are just locked in perfection.
What you see is two unbelievably skilled, highly trained actors at the top of their game. I mean, Charles Grodin came out of the same schools as like all of the actors. What I'm trying to say is you think of Charles Grodin as a comedian, as a talk show host, but he came out of the same acting schools as all of the A-list acting talent that we take for granted. He knows how to work off of people. Yeah. I've loved him in everything. Seems Like Old Times, Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase. I saw him in the theater as a kid. He's great in Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty and Diane Cannon. He's great in everything. But anyway, long story short, he's got the toughest thing because he is basically a human football. He is passed from bounty hunter to bounty hunter. He is kind of just the plot. He might as well be the discs that Serrano needs. And yet he builds a character. Little things. They're hitchhiking and they get in with a group of Native Americans in a truck. And he's, "Yah-hey, everybody, yah-hey." And he's
what
like,
is that?
What is that?
Yah-hey?
I learned to say hello in a bunch of different languages. Like, that's Jonathan Mardukas.
It's not yours, but a lot.
So good. He's funny.
It's so good.
But he's funny in a way that annoys De Niro's character.
It could be easy to say, like, oh, he's just got to keep up this sort of deadpan delivery. It's like, no, because he also has to be heartfelt when they talk about De Niro's wife. He has to be heartfelt around De Niro's daughter. Charles Grodin is part of the reason they could establish De Niro's family situation, which is a big part of the plot. They established it by talking to Charles Grodin. I could see someone being like, how can you not have the mother and the daughter in it until then? No one's going to care. Do you care?
Yeah.
Do you care when the mother and you care a lot.
Yeah. It's a great way to get exposition in. You're absolutely right. It's great. And the mother has taken up with a cop who is on the payroll, like De Niro wouldn't be back in the day.
Yeah, you care so it's so intertwined. It's so good. You care so much when they get to the mother and the daughter's house.
Yeah. And you see a softening of De Niro along the way, thanks to Grodin working on him and talking about his internal life and trying to get him to open up. At some point, his daughter breaks through. He sees his daughter and it all collapses. You see the humanism of him on display.
It's beautiful. It really is.
And Grodin knows how to be in the room with that.
Yeah,
he's open emotionally.
I watched him. I watched him while this was happening, and he knew what a person would feel watching this go down. And and all of this, like it's all in this. It's all happening. It's like this unexpected deepness in this like chase him, catch him, let him go, chase him again, catch him, let him go movie. That it's like, no, there's time for some serious character exposition here. Like, you know, we're going to make sure that everything that these two guys do means twice as much because you know about Jack Walsh's family. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's really well done.
It really is.
And kudos to whoever played the mom and the daughter. Yeah. They are both terrific. The daughter coming out with cash, I think $180 in babysitting money. And I can't take it. I can't take it, honey. No, I really can't. And I'm like thinking to myself, he can't. You can't take your daughter's babysitting money.
He doesn't take any payouts.
Dave. He doesn't take no payoffs. He doesn't take payoffs.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And what's great about that scene and what it establishes, it presages a future where De Niro has an open communication with his daughter. The daughter is the only one he has to get right with. He gave his watch, which his wife gave to him, this talisman of sorts that he held on to almost as a good luck charm that's going to bring his wife back to him. Yeah, that does not work. He gave it to Grodin at the end as a kind of keepsake. So we know that he's over his wife. He's not hung up on her. But the daughter is the thing. And we know now that that's going to continue.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful what they give us with that scene.
Amazing, unexpected scene.
Yeah, it really is. And it delivers. It does.
Yeah.
You know, De Niro dealing with things and having Grodin next to him. Grodin is this kind of like Cypher.
Cypher. That's Joey Pants' name in The Matrix. Go on.
What are the odds? Through which you get the emotion of the audience. Like, there's this great scene where De Niro is dealing with the ticket lady at the bus stop. And he doesn't have money because his cards are canceled. And he's trying to use his badge, but there's different...
His credit card has been canceled by Dorfler. So then he moves to plan B, which is use the badge. But the badge says Mosely.
Right. The ticket lady calls him on this and is like, would you like me to contact the FBI, sir? Grodin and this woman lock eyes. And Grodin's like shaking his head like, can you believe this guy? They both commiserate over him. It's perfect. But there are a few scenes like that. If you watch Grodin, it's priceless. When they work together, I was reminded of a scene. It wasn't Beverly Hills Cop, but 48 Hours, the Walter Hill scene.
Also comes to mind.
Where Eddie Murphy takes Nick Nolte's badge and pretends to be a cop in this tough guy club.
Let's see what we can fuck with next.
Yes. And the Mosely identification is used by Grodin's character to help get them money from a bar so that they can buy food. But it was very similar to me.
The famous litmus configuration. You doing the litmus configuration?
Litmus configuration.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, really good.
You know, Dave, this is one of those films where people get knocked out with one punch.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely worth bringing up because it has several of the tropes. One of the tropes is if you need to move someone around without them fighting back, you knock them out with one punch.
And you just carry them.
Yeah, or you knock them out with one punch and handcuff them, or knock them out with one punch and leave them there. I think someone gets knocked out with one punch, like 6 times in this movie.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny because it's one of those almost cartoon-like knockouts. There's no repercussions. No one deals with a concussion or a hangover. You know,
you don't see any bruises on anyone.
No, nothing. But I'm a big fan of the TV show Mannix. It was created by my beloved Levinson and Link, who did Columbo. Anyway, Joe Mannix, the private eye in that show, gets knocked out like 3 times per episode on the back of the head. Every episode for like 8 seasons. There's no repercussions.
Yeah, doctors say that like getting knocked out does like numerous times does serious damage.
Oh yeah.
Like
no, it's NFL kind of.
Right. Mannix is like, what is the name of that? Like quarterback syndrome times 11, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of knockouts. There's unlikely lock picking. There is unlikely hot wiring.
There's like garbage food eating, like that guys do on stakeouts or whatever. There's that scene where Marvin Dorfler's eating on his bed, like eating gross stuff. And the guy's like,
the guy,
he's handcuffed to a radiator, like his skip tracer guy. He's like, can I at least have some French fries? And he's like, shut your mouth, dick breath, or whatever he says.
Yeah. I thought that scene was really, that looked like a situation that a bail bondsman might end up in, like a guy handcuffed in his bathroom. Yeah,
Dorfler is the real bounty hunter. That's what you see is how it really is. There's no fun. There's no joking. Like Charles Grodin lucks out that Jack Walsh got put on it. Mardukas lucks out.
And, we talk about the fact that they sort of like it's not a buddy comedy. It's an enemy comedy, but they work their way up to being friends. Dorfler and Walsh are not entirely enemies.
They're frenemies.
They're competing against each other for these bounties or these these payoffs. So there's some animosity, but there's a simple line where he says, "Watch your cigarettes, Jack."
This is after he knocked out Marvin numerous times.
Yeah.
Oh. And then at the end, they share information. He's like, don't you read? Don't you know who Mardukas is? No, what? And he has to tell him, and he's like, holy shit.
That's what he says, this guy? And he goes, me, can you believe it?
And they both tell him to shut up.
Yeah. And Grodin's like, I can't do this anymore. He's saying it sort of under his breath throughout Dorfler and Walsh's conversation. Very, very good.
But also, Dave, the other side of Mardukas's character, the part of him that's slick, the part of him that came up with the plan and got away the first time, that's the same guy we see in a couple of scenes. He goes to save De Niro's life when he's kind of in raging water, and he reaches out and he says, promise to let me go. He's like, I'm trying to do the right thing here, Jack.
Yeah.
There's that side to Grodin's character, and he shows us that too. So,
yeah, and I never think in the beginning, I think anything Grodin does is him trying to get away. But I quickly start to think Grodin is now partnered with, you know when it might start? Jack Walsh calls Joey Pants, Eddie, he calls Moscow and bail bonds. And he says, I will kill him and I will throw him in a ditch. But he's on the phone, so Joey Pants can't see him. So he shakes his head like, I won't kill you and throw you in a ditch.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the beginning of the friendship. He's like, I would never. I like you.
It's a weird thing. At some point, they almost become like siblings in the back of their parents' car. There's a line, De Niro says something like, I'm not talking to you for the whole rest of the trip.
Yeah. He does say that, right?
They're little kids almost at one point. It's really cool. Mardukas is smart because you're right. He doesn't always try to get away, but he's smart enough to know when to keep the status quo and when to speed things up or slow things down. Like, he knows enough to get them off the flight, because if they take that flight, he's in the city in an hour where he's going to be.
He's 2 miles from where it's over.
So he needs to get off the flight, and that begins his smart, I can't fly, and he freaks out, so he has to go. And then the trip is longer, and he keeps the status quo until he can get away. So yeah, he's always scheming.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a grand plan to win over Jack Walsh so that he'll let him go at the end. It's a combination of self-preservation and consideration of this guy. He knows about this thing you mentioned, this, like, he's so lucky that he got this guy and not that guy.
Right.
Yeah, he knows.
We'll call it the Dorfler effect.
But it's like he realizes he has a person who is compassionate, a person who is honest, a person, who doesn't take because if he has the wrong bounty hunter, who's not going to take $500,000 from the mob to give the guy over?
Right. I talked about how smart Mardukas is. When we first see him in the film, I feel like it's a missed opportunity, because Mardukas's dog comes out and sees Jack Walsh first and scares him into a bathroom, and the door's shut and he's locked there. And I'm like, dude, get out of there. Get out of the house. I just want him to grab his money and, run down the stairs and get out of the house, knowing the film.
Your dog has obviously cornered someone.
Right.
Yeah.
He was getting out of town anyway. He knew someone's coming for him. Who's he think is in the bathroom?
It quickly also establishes the sort of because, Jack Walsh nearly dies in the first scene. He drops his lock-picking tool, bends down to pick it up, and a shotgun blast misses him by inches. So, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Well, you're like, what's it going to be like between him and Mardukas? What's the vibe going to be when Mardukas and Walsh start interacting. And the first thing Walsh ends up saying to the Duke is, don't move, don't move. I'll shoot you through the glass, because he's in the bathtub with the sliding glass door closed. It's like goofy. And even I think that Mardukas is like, okay, I'm not even sure if a bullet works that way, but okay, I won't run. But it starts this is going to be kind of funny.
Yeah. The movie could have fallen down anywhere along the journey with the wrong casting or with the wrong type of character. But the comedy does not let up, even when we meet the most evil person in it. Dennis Farina is just so fucking funny. Serrano's got lines, like he calls his henchman, and he's like, is this moron number one? Put moron number two on. And in my head, I'm like, no, actually, moron number two answered. You should have asked. It would have been funnier to ask for moron number one, because that's a ranking.
Yeah. Yeah, he's terrific. Eat a sandwich, do some fucking thing. And his foil, his Jonathan Mardukas, is Sidney.
Oh,
our
Sidney.
Beloved Philip Baker Hall.
Our beloved Philip Baker Hall, who also played Sidney in what was originally Sidney, but got retitled Hard Eight, Paul Thomas Anderson's first film.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he's great.
He is so good in this, and he's so easy to not notice because that's part of his job.
And he cues up jokes.
He cues up all of that. Eat a sandwich. I'm going to drive a pencil through his skull. He cues up all those amazing Dennis Farina lines.
Yeah.
And he's like the mob lawyer of like Officer Joe Friday, that Dragnet cop. He's just like, I don't think you should go there in person.
I just want to say again, I think this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
He's
stuff like that.
Constantly
Yeah.
the voice of reason.
And he's just the voice of reason, so that Dennis Farina can, in a funny way, say, I don't give a shit what you think. He's terrific. Yeah.
There's one moment, one visual that I just want to call out. I'm going to send you a picture of this, Dave, in real time so that we can talk about it.
This is a PCG first.
Yeah. I'm going to send it after I say this. When the Duke gives Jack all that money, there's a close-up of Jack's fingers counting the money. And we see the grodiest thumbnail in the history of fingers. It's got to be De Niro, because no hand model could work with that ailment. But I'm thinking perhaps he injured the nail on Angel Heart because he had like long Lee press-on nails in that one or something.
I remember those nails, yeah.
But I'm going to send it to you now. It's the thumbnail, and it is so unbelievably gross. So let me know.
Okay,
Dave has no idea what I'm sending him.
Wow.
There's the real reaction.
Wow. That is something.
Isn't that bad and weird? It looks like it was once ripped out and it grew back really gnarly.
And he's got both of his thumbs are in the shot.
Yeah.
And one is fine. And the other is really messed up. I was going to say, of course his thumb is grody. They've been in rivers and they haven't taken a shower and they've been rolling around in the dirt. You know why I didn't see that thumb? Because I was completely drawn to the $1,000 bills.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, the 1,000 in the corner of that bill, which is what makes him. He sees that 1,000 and he looks up at Groden and he goes, "How much is in here?" And he says, "In the neighborhood of $450,000 or something like that."
Yeah, it's a very respectable neighborhood.
That's a pretty respectable neighborhood. That's a great line.
Oh, so many great lines. So many great throwaway lines in this movie. Would be like power lines in another movie.
Yeah.
But they're just thrown off the cuff.
Movie is packed with good lines.
Yeah.
And you know what? I watched the trailers. I always like to watch the trailers to see what they're pushing. But the go-to joke in the trailers is like one of my least favorite lines, which is, "You're going to suffer from fistophobia if you don't."
Oh, that's the worst line in the whole movie.
It's my least favorite line in the whole movie.
But you know what? It's a basic line for a basic audience, and that's what trailers are cut for.
Yeah.
They want the most amount of people to go see these films. This is a buddy/enemy comedy, but there are a couple of sets of buddies here. There is a wonderful relationship between Jack Walsh and Alonzo Mosely. Even though they don't have scenes together until the end, there's the initial scene where there's such a great butting of the heads. And then there's a sort of like back and forth where De Niro knows that Mosely's going to hear about certain things. So he drops certain information. Later, when they meet up, it's contentious, but there's a little bit of winking.
There's a smirk that you get smirks.
Smirk,
but
both
and it's
ways.
almost imperceptible. Well, De Niro's smirk is pretty big, but Cotto's smirk is so subtle.
And Mosely is so proud of himself. Yeah.
It's so good.
There's a wonderful thing where Mosely gets to like Jack, and we know it just from his face, because he's like, put a wire on this man. Like, he's impressed with how Jack is putting together all of these kind of...
And correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, all of these charges they're going to try and lay at the feet of Serrano when they arrest him. And at one point, he starts kind of smiling to himself, and Mosley's like, what are you smiling about? And he's like, I feel like a cop again.
Yeah.
It's like a sweet thing.
For a second right there, I jumped to Mosely calling him up and saying, we could use a man like you on the force.
Well, that's one of the things I think will happen. Kind of like, I think he's going to have a better relationship with his daughter. And also, he's probably going to look out for Mardukas' wife. He's going to check in every once in a while and see if she's doing okay. He's just a good guy. But I also think he's going to, because remember, one of the things they capture on the wire before it goes dead is that he didn't take a payoff. Mardukas is like, I wish we could have done business back in Chicago. Like,
oh, that's a really good point.
That's why he was off the force.
Right. That's Dennis, wow.
And
I hadn't considered that. Jimmy Serrano clears his name.
Not only clears his name, implicates the cop who is now with his wife, who is on the payroll. Can you believe it? They made this guy a captain. So
right. I know because I've been helping him.
Yeah. So maybe his wife leaves that guy. And then what happens?
Put him back with his wife. That didn't work out to begin with.
No. I don't want that to happen. But at least it'll open the eyes of the wife, and she'll be like, I can't believe I screwed my husband over, and look at this guy that I've been with, and all this bullshit. Who knows what happens in the future? Yeah, I don't know.
Those are going to be some great movies for the AI to make.
Yes. Let's do it.
Jack Walsh, he has a private detective agency. He's got a couple of guys working for him. Dorfler works for him.
Or maybe it's just like Midnight Run 2 from the files of Special Agent Alonzo Mosely. I'm thinking of Police Squad.
And the posters are just the sunglasses.
That's it.
Just the sunglasses.
Agent Foster Grant.
Yeah, so good.
I'm going to look up the tagline for this movie now.
Don't bother.
Oh, no. Is it a bad one?
I don't even understand it.
A tough bounty hunter, a sensitive criminal.
No. Sorry. Not interested. Tough and sensitive aren't even good descriptors.
No.
He'll save his life if he doesn't kill him first. Or something like that,
Oh, yeah. Is that one of them?
No, that's what I'm coming up with.
Oh, that's a good one, Dave. They use the actors' names in it, first of all, which I'm against. It's a fucking short story. Charles Grodin embezzled $15 million. The mob wants him dead. The FBI wants him alive. Robert De Niro just wants him to shut up. This could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Wow.
Also not good.
Not good.
First of all, how do you not look at that and go, okay, this is too long?
I know. Anytime you have to use 100 words.
It should have had some element of if he doesn't kill himself or,
If he doesn't kill him first. No, I like that. Yeah.
Something along the lines of he's driving me crazy.
Yeah. Or like The Odd Couple if Oscar had a gun. That's better. Anyway, all in all, one of the best movies of the 80s, which is saying something.
Yeah. Like I said, I consider it to be a perfect movie. I absolutely love this movie.
It's also a genre that I think was almost the exclusive purview of the 70s and 80s, which was the action comedy.
And I remember saying to people, I was literally coming out of the theater and saying to people, see how nice that is? You get all that excitement and all those laughs and heartfelt moments. You get everything. Like, that's really nice.
But also stir crazy. Half that movie is a rodeo.
Yeah.
The Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
You know how many cars were lost in the Blues Brothers? But like the action comedy is not a thing. Like all through the 90s, they tried to shoehorn comedy into action movies and it didn't quite work, you know, True Lies or whatever. But like the comedy first kind of action comedy, that's a lost art form.
Think about how actually dark 48 Hours gets. 48 Hours is incredible. I mean, and several times.
Several.
There's a very dark beginning. There's the ending scene that's really heavy duty in like Chinatown or something. And yet, it's one of the funniest Eddie Murphy movies there is. Him and Nick Nolte are hilarious together in that very serious situation. I think that's a really fun way to go. But look, here's a 50-something-year-old man who's like, I love those movies with the two cops who can knock people out with one punch and are constantly cracking on each other and getting in car chases. Like, yeah, of course you love it. It was made for you. It's in my DNA.
This is kind of a fossil movie-wise compared to a lot of the things that we cover. Even The Warriors is more modern than this movie. I think it's a victory that Yaphet Kotto had a role in this.
Yeah, that is a victory. I think that the things that save this movie from being not okay, not okay, but you know what I mean, from falling so far outside
from being out of touch.
Yeah, from being so far out of touch. Yaphet Kotto being fantastic and being pivotal, and also the very well thought out, heartfelt mother-daughter scenario and the way the scene played out lends so much heart to a movie that could have been maybe a little bit too just like bro-y.
Yeah, very much.
I mean, I don't doubt that I still would have enjoyed the hell out of it, but that really lends some heart to it.
You're absolutely right. It let the air out of his character and it made all of the tough guy stuff okay. Because they let us peek behind the curtain. And that's something a lot of these action movies don't do, or these superhero movies even. They don't show you the vulnerability. They don't allow them to be a fully dimensional person.
Yeah.
You know, it's just bullshit and explosions. So, yeah, that is key to us liking De Niro's character. Great, Dave. I will see you in the next life.
Yeah, I thought about that. Yeah. I actually didn't know, and I checked if Charles Grodin had passed away, and he had. And I was like, I'll see you in the next life.
Charles Grodin and Yaphet Kotto both have passed away. So rest in peace. We dedicate this episode to both of you, how talented you were.
They were terrific.
All right, Dave. Good work.
Hollis and Dave would like to thank you for enjoying Pop Culture Graveyard.